Hello, Pisces, and welcome to your reading. This is Bright Soul Collective Tarot. My name is Laura, and these will be your intuitive insights and advice for the month of January 2023. Because I'm getting a late start, it will cover about the next 4 weeks, so remainder of January into the beginning of February to give us a little buffer. This reading will be for Pisces, Sun, Moon, and Rising. So by all means, if you know your three major placements, you can listen to any and all readings that apply, as each one may resonate for you differently. And as always, before we get started, do keep in mind these readings are general in nature. They're more meant to apply to a broad collective of individuals, so not necessarily every detail that comes through will make sense for you. I highly recommend you take anything and everything that does resonate for you, however that connects to or makes sense with your personal circumstances, whatever it inspires within you, and you can simply leave the rest. So Pisces, Happy New Year, Happy 2023. I hope you're all doing well, that the rest of 2022 is good to you, and that your new year is off to a great start. If you are returning, welcome back. I'm sorry I was MIA for a little while there. The last few months of 2022 just kind of got hammered with a bunch of consecutive challenges, and it was a bit of a rough go, so kind of had to pull my energy in, just focus on myself and my family, and I really did not have the capacity to do much in the way of energy work. So now I'm in a good spot to show up in the right energy to read for you guys. So I'm super excited to be back. And if you are new here, or if it's your first time, welcome and thank you for being here. I cannot wait to take a look at the month of January for you guys. So I've got your oracle card here. We'll get a few tarot cards. I'll share with you the channeled messages that I connected with before I brought any cards out. And then we'll get a final oracle and some affirmations to tie everything together. So as I was preparing for your reading, the general energy that I was picking up on was a sense of being invigorated, or not just invigorated, but like reinvigorated. So there's kind of like a renewed excitement. So this could be renewed excitement for something old or existing. It could be something new and exciting currently coming in or on the horizon, like at present. So it's something that might be bringing in like new energy, new passion, excitement, creativity, inspiration. So that could pertain to anything. And that will be, unique to each and every one of you. So that could be in love and relationships. It could be in family. It could be career wise or in finances, material gain. Yeah, it really could be anything. And the other thing that I was kind of picking up on was almost like being in a sense, like in the zone, or like in the flow of things. I don't know if you've heard about like when you get into flow, especially if you're doing something creative. It's kind of like there's not a whole lot of thinking or trying or processing that's going on. It's just kind of like you find your groove and you're just creating, or you're just getting the work out. So it's kind of like there's a sense of things maybe feeling a little bit easier. Maybe you have developed a skill to a point, or developed a level of familiarity with something that, those little like bumps and the extra time that would normally go into finessing things, it just kind of comes naturally. And so you're not having to try as hard, but things are just kind of happening. You're being productive, and the tasks are being completed. Kind of gives me that like work smarter, not harder type of vibe. So yeah, you might find that you're hitting a stride this month. And the other thing that came through was just like I kept on getting distracted when I was trying to like see what I was sensing. It's just like March, 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 March. Yeah, so that was kind of like distracting my focus. So that might be something that's distracting you as well. But then I kind of felt like otherwise you weren't particularly disturbed by much going on outside of you. So like external things. So you may be coming to a new level of like self-satisfaction, just peace with where you're at and what you're doing, like kind of feeling a little bit more fulfilled, less need to focus on the things that are happening externally. So that is a possibility. I just thought I would include that. So your card for this month is Blessed. So you see, and it is card number 22. 22, if you're into numerology, is considered to be a master number. So that's a really good one. I think they consider that 22 to be the master builder. So you can kind of benefit from like inspiration and intuitive cues and being adept in that sense, but then also the practical side of things. So this can be like an energy of perfectionism as well, highly productive, having high expectations. So if you're interested, you should take a look at the number 22, the characteristics that are associated with it. If you're interested in life path numbers, you may be a 22 very well. You can either look up how to calculate it. It's like adding all the digits of your birth month, birthday, birth year, and then basically until you get to like a double or single digit. It's, yeah. Or you can find a calculator online. Anyways, if you Google it, if you have an interest, there are specific qualities associated with each life path number. So that might be additional confirmation for you. But overall, it's really nice seeing this card coming out, because the first thing that came to mind as soon as it came out, as soon as I saw it, was the sense that your ships are coming in. So you may have a feeling like either things are starting to take shape. Perhaps there's a little bit more prosperity coming in, maybe a little bit more stability, or you're in a position to really start enjoying more of the work that you've been putting to kind of like build your foundation. It could be that. But the beautiful thing about this blessed card is that you don't have to do anything to deserve or receive these types of blessings. So you might very well find that this is a month where things are just falling into place, or things are kind of turning out in your favor. Maybe maybe when you go out to grab your morning coffee, Starbucks gets the order wrong and you get a free coffee, or the person ahead of you has paid for you, or something like that. So this could be anything. It could be a windfall. It could be any form of abundance, any kind of blessing or gift. There's really no limit as to how that might come through. So it could come through someone that you already know and have a connection to, that is, kind of coming out of nowhere and offering you a beautiful gift. Maybe you get something for free, you win a prize. But the idea is that the blessings that you are being given this month, anything that comes up for you that would be considered a blessing, it's not as a result of the hard work that you've done. You haven't had to work for it. You haven't had to earn it. You don't have to deserve it. It's being given to you, right? You're being blessed with it. And that's the idea of a gift. A gift isn't meant to be conditional, like based on what we've done to deserve it, or if we're a good enough person, or what we're going to do as a result of receiving it, right? So this is telling you guys it might be a very positive month. You might be surprised. There might be things that completely come out of nowhere that are huge blessings. It could be tiny little blessings, a lot of them. But keep an eye out for those, and make sure that you're open to receive them with grace and humility, with an open heart, not letting any kind of self-doubt or self-sabotage come in, not taking any ownership over the fact that, this is a result of your hard work or you deserve it. Just treat it as a blessing, an abundant gift, something that has blessed you, something that you get to experience and receive. Allow yourself to receive that, allow yourself to enjoy and to be grateful for that, and when possible, share those blessings and share that abundance with others. So it's a really lovely card for you guys to have this month, and I'd be really curious to see how that might manifest for you, because obviously it's going to be different for each and every one of you, and it will also have to do with who you are, what you value, where you are in life, because a lot of times our perspective, our history, and our current outlook influences how we perceive blessings or gifts, or something. But yeah, this is something unexpected, so that's a really great thing. So, and with me saying that, I don't want to get into like a predictive dilemma, because obviously, nothing is set in stone. The future is changeable, and it has everything to do with the decisions that you make from moment to moment. So it's like kind of not putting the cart before the horse, or counting your chickens before they're hatched. But just be open to and receptive of any blessings that come your way. No room for self-sabotage. Don't say no, right? Because especially if we're open to receiving and we want to have a more joyful and abundant life, if we're putting that out and we're hoping for that and we truly want it, and then it's offered to us and we refuse it because we feel like we're not worthy of it, or we haven't done enough to deserve it, or whatever the case may be, then we're kind of blocking those blessings and they're less likely to come through in the future. Whereas the more openly we receive them, acknowledge them, appreciate them, and share them, the more we're able to kind of connect to that energy effortlessly. So this is basically saying you're coming into a blessed period of time. And yeah, that can manifest in any area of your life. So it could be like love, work, finances, your home and family life. It could be in terms of your career, your, material possessions. It could be travel. It could be creatively. But yeah, I think that's really, I don't even have anything to add to that because it's, it's pretty straightforward. Yeah, and I think just not over personalizing it, not attaching your identity to anything valuable that happens to come your way, and allowing yourself to enjoy, right? Because if this is a period of blessing and abundance, you want to receive as much as you can, enjoy it as much as you can, right? Because we don't always, we go through cycles and we're not always in a position to receive, right? Because sometimes we're in that period where things are being woven, or we're putting in work, or we're a little bit disconnected. So if you're in a season of blessings, the best thing to do is to just take note of them, receive them openly, and enjoy. So we're going to get you tarot. We'll get your first card to outline any, like, the challenge that you might be facing, or any kind of challenging energy that you might have to work with or work through this month, and then your recommended advice. So first we'll get your challenge. I keep on getting piles of cards slipping over, and I really just want to get one for you because I'm trying to keep these readings a little more on the brief side. So let's see what your challenge is this month. Again, I keep on, like, I don't know how to interpret this. If it's like lots of challenges, there are a lot of cards coming out. I really just want the one that's going to be best suited for you. But you might have a lot of, like, maybe you're coming into a period of blessings because you've had a lot of stuff that you've been struggling with or working through. And so maybe there's a lot of kind of challenges that have been going on in the past. Okay, so your challenge is showing up as the Three of Cups. And so now we will get your advice for overcoming this. That is the Nine of Wands. And at the bottom of the deck, we have the Nine of Cups. So this is kind of an interesting energy, especially going hand in hand with blessed. So for the Three of Cups showing up as your challenge, or your challenging energy, this has to do with, deep and meaningful friendships and relationships. Like, first and foremost, it's generally a card of friendship. That doesn't have to be exclusively friends. It could also be like family that are friends that are family, that kind of thing. So it's a card of like connection. It can also be a card of celebration. So sometimes it can pertain to like any kind of celebration that you would attend, like a wedding, a marriage, a birthday party, something like that. But it's kind of the idea, it highlights the importance of forming and maintaining meaningful, emotional connections and having an emotional and a kind of like depth of connection in our friendships. And you're not necessarily going to have this level of connection with everyone, and certainly not with all of your friends or all of your family members. There might be a select few people that you kind of just jive with, or that get you on a deeper level, that you can have more meaningful, honest conversations with, people who will kind of receive you openly and not judge you on a superficial level. Because not everybody is ready to share in that kind of energy. And a lot of times they have to be willing to connect with and express that energy themselves in order to be able to receive someone else in that capacity. Because the cups are all about like love, connection, intuition, your psychic awareness, that kind of stuff. So with that being said, Pisces, you are often considered to be the most spiritually inclined, the most intuitive, the most psychic of all of the zodiac signs. So if you do find yourself to be someone who's particularly sensitive to these types of energies, you may already have kind of an added level of depth to a lot of your connections. You may be able to sense when people are upset with you. You may be able to kind of sense what people are thinking. You may be able to pick up easily on intentions, motivations, perhaps even like the history of a certain circumstance or a certain person's like upbringing that has kind of influenced them. So you may already have an added layer of depth and information to work with in your connections. And that could, if you're not aware of it or you don't know how to handle it, it can feel like a bit of a burden. It can be a little bit draining. It can be emotionally overwhelming, particularly if you're sensing things that people aren't ready to share with you or to talk about. And you can tell that there's something there and you kind of know what's there, but that person isn't necessarily presenting that to you openly. It can be disruptive to have a sense of knowing that indicates one thing and then have a person say something else to your face. So you might be struggling with that, and that might make it difficult to either connect with or maintain those types of relationships. It could be in general, like you might get easily drained or easily put off, and it's difficult to put yourself out there. But yeah, this is all about, it's a card of sisterhood, right? You've got 3 women here, but a card of brotherhood. So it's kind of like, finding your people, like your soul tribe, your soul family, the people who love you and support you and who get you. And that doesn't mean that there isn't going to be any, a lack of struggle. It doesn't mean that you're not going to have disagreements or miscommunications or challenges or compromises that need to be made, but it just means that like these are the people that get you, they care for you, they love you, they're in your corner, and you can share with them basically anything, right? Like these are the people that you can confide in. And this is showing up as a challenge. So perhaps there's something that's blocking you from those connections. Perhaps you don't have anyone like that you connect with yet, like you've yet to connect with or meet that individual. And that's someone that you kind of have to draw in and then be willing to connect with if they are in your environment. It could be that something is disconnecting you or getting in between your ability to, getting in the way of your ability to connect. It's really could be different for any and all of you, but any blocks that you have around having those like deep and meaningful connections, those deep and meaningful conversations, and like this can be also about like, sharing love and sharing emotions openly. This like those people that kind of provide a safe space for you to just be fully yourself in. I don't know. It could be on your end. It could be on the other person's end. It could be both, right? Because if you are feeling hesitant or blocked in terms of your ability to connect with people on that level, even if you have those deeper connections and those people who you kind of drive with in that way, if they sense that you're not kind of on the same playing field or you're not open, that might be causing them to kind of shut down and withdraw as well. So that'll be different for each and every one of you, but that's showing up as your challenge. So you may find that either that has been a theme or That's a theme that really is highlighted this month, or perhaps is coming to a head. Maybe it's something that you're working through or that you're feeling particularly triggered by. And your advice for managing that and working through that and with that energy is the Nine of Wands, which is kind of interesting because the Nine of Wands can be a bit of a defensive card. Because it's kind of like being at the end of a journey, and your passion, your inspiration, the things that excite you and light you up, you've allowed yourself to connect with that. You've allowed yourself to follow your heart, to invest in, whatever path you've been on, and you've put the work in, and perhaps you're close to the end of that journey. So it's like if you've scaled a mountain, right? Once you get to the top, once you're kind of near the end, that's almost when you become vulnerable, right? Because as you ascend, as you become solid, as you are moving toward completion of the cycle, it could be achievement of a goal, it could be, anything of that capacity. But this is kind of about taking a pause, right? Because you're not at the end yet, right? You haven't done all the work. There's still steps to take, there's still work to be done. So you can't necessarily stop, but it's usually a time for rest and pause and reflection. So looking back at how far you've come without being too focused on the past or too caught up in the past. So it's about being able to look at what got you to here, and how it served a purpose, or how it served as part of your journey, but not becoming so distracted by what has happened in the past and what may come from your past, like potentially back to bite you, and being able to kind of survey the landscape and figure out what your next step is. And this is a card about feeling stable and confident and secure, and trusting that you don't need to have your defenses up. You don't need to hide behind this wall. You don't have to be worried about someone sneaking up on you and attacking you or knocking you down or taking you away from your goal, right? Because if you are intentionally taking things step by step, and you're taking time to kind of survey the landscape and determine what is a risk, what puts you at risk, and how you want to move forward, right? It's kind of a time of regrouping and strategizing to kind of get you across the finish line. So it's not necessarily a card of movement or action or things moving forward, but it is a time of reflection. And sometimes that reflection and sometimes being so close to that goal and having put so much work in makes us feel as though it could be taken from us. And it's recognizing that chances are there's no one coming after you. Chances are there's no one coming to knock you down. There's no one coming to attack you. You don't have to put all of your energy and awareness into building up your defenses and keeping yourself safe. Because if you are conscious and aware of what you're trying to achieve, and you're realistic about the actual risks, you don't have to be overly cautious. And that's kind of like, that'll be different for each and every one of you. But this is knowing that you can trust your ability to handle whatever comes your way. And even if you do come across some kind of resistance or some kind of roadblock, you're going to find a way through it. It's not going to knock you off your path. The only thing that can really disrupt your ability to be successful in this capacity is a fear that it or whatever this is could be taken away from you. And so sometimes that causes us to get into fear and to self-sabotage. And then it's kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy, because we deflate ourselves and we become so paranoid about what might be going on, or what could happen, or what could go wrong, and who might be coming after us, or what might get in our way or keep us from getting there, that we actually stop focusing on what we need to do. And sometimes we end up kind of questioning ourselves and losing confidence in our ability to move forward. So you might be questioning yourself a lot. You might be looking back. You might be feeling like you have to put your walls up and defend yourself, particularly in relationships in general, or in these types of relationships that have a little bit more riding on them emotionally, because that's it. Like, these relationships can be more hurtful, because the deeper that we connect with people and the more openly and authentically we share, yeah, the more opportunity there is to be impacted emotionally by their words, their actions, right? But that's what also allows us to get to a level of depth and love to experience, an unconditional love or support, or everybody needs that, right? And especially if you feel like you're missing it, um, it might just be like a natural tendency to become defensive, or to self-isolate, or to become, fearful, and to kind of put your walls up. That might be the only thing blocking this connection. And if you can see, like, hey, you've put the work in, you've come this far, nothing's going to be taken away from you. The more that you lean into it with the confidence that you know the right moves to make, the more you are going to allow things to progress naturally. And this light, this spark within you is going to guide your way, instead of this fear and skepticism, or tendency to overanalyze, that kind of stuff. Because at the bottom of the deck, we have the Nine of Cups, which is the wish fulfillment card. So it's basically like, if you could have anything, what would it be? What is your idea of like your be all end all level of happiness, like in your relationship, in your career, in your family life, financially, with, regard to your material possessions and stability, in your relationships, like familial, friendship, romantic relationships. Like, what do you want to feel? What do you want to experience? What is that kind of be all end all wish? And it's basically saying, like, if you can dream it, you can do it. So allowing yourself to kind of dream of and envision that is the first step, and realizing that even if it seems unreasonable, and even if you don't see how it could possibly manifest for you, that holding that vision and taking action from that place, aligning with those values, or aligning with those things that are important to you, will naturally bring you closer, right? Because again, it's this heart-centered energy. So that's the underlying kind of past energy that's influencing this. So maybe you've been hoping for more depth and more connection, more value in your relationships, more opportunities to gather, to celebrate, right? To share love and support for each other. So your blessings could be tied to that as well. It could be tied to these relationships and this kind of ability to release, or it may not be. But that's kind of an interesting idea, at least. So now I'm going to take a moment to share the channeled messages. So I took some time before I started this reading to sit down and connect with your energy. And I got a top 2, but you guys had a bonus one because it was kind of intrusive before I was ready to even start like channeling for you. So your bonus one is pour one out for my homies, which I thought was hilarious because that's not really something that I ever say. But it came through in such a specific tone that I just couldn't ignore it. So I don't know if that's something that you say or something that you do. It could be even something that you do jokingly. And you may do it seriously to like acknowledge somebody who's no longer with you, someone who's passed on or at a distance, as a way of honoring them. Or you might do it in like a shady way, like pour one out for my homie, like who's, pussy whipped or something, like we're never going to see him again. Like it could be that context. So that is your bonus because it wouldn't leave me alone. And then your first channeled message, it was inevitability. So a sense of inevitability. So something is just kind of bound or destined to happen. It's unavoidable. And generally, what I thought was interesting is I don't know, in a lot of circumstances, when you hear that word inevitable or inevitability, there's almost a bit of a negative connotation or a heaviness to it. Like, well, something's set in stone and it can't be changed, right? And that may be true to a certain extent, but the sense that I got in terms of inevitability was almost a sense of acceptance and release, like being at peace with it, not feeling the need to fight it, but just being willing to accept, inevitably, if something isn't right for you. What's the use in trying to avoid it, trying to change it, trying to fight it, if you can accept it and grant yourself the ability to move on, right? So it's kind of like a willingness to trust, right? And that concept that like that something that otherwise could be perceived as limiting, like if it's inevitable, it's gonna happen no matter what, that as much as it may seem limiting, it actually can be a really beautiful opportunity, right? So it's like, well, for example, if something is inevitable, if a certain outcome is inevitable and no matter what you do, that's not going to change, why not take a leap, right? Why not do something different? Something that you might benefit from or grow from, right? So it's like if you're if you're not going to change or alter the course of this thing happening, like first off, why should you be worrying and stressing yourself out about it, right? When you can release and accept. But then also it's a really great opportunity to use that to better yourself, right? Or use that to experiment, to try something new, to just give yourself a pass, right? So yeah, and I kind of got the sense that you might already be in that energy, or maybe coming into like connecting with that energy. It might be something that you resonate with. So I'll leave that up to you. Your second channeled message was Somewhere Only We Know, which is like the song by Keen. And I know for sure that wasn't just the phrase, but it's that song specifically because I could hear the melody in my head. So I don't know if you were familiar with that song by Keen. It's from like 2004. Whether you are or aren't, I highly recommend after you're done this reading, give that song a listen, and more importantly, take a read of the lyrics and see if it kind of inspires anything in you. See how it resonates, if it does. And you may already have some kind of connection to this song. Maybe it's one that you play. Maybe you've listened to it recently. Maybe you'll hear it this month randomly. It's an older song, so that might be validation for you. Or it could be something from like within the song. Maybe there's a connection. Maybe it's connected to a relationship or something from your history. Maybe it's legitimately a place that only you and another person know, either having that special spot, going to that special spot, maybe wanting to like find that or create that with someone. So just putting that out there. All right, so to wrap up, we're going to get you one final oracle card. I'll read that directly from the book, and we'll get you a couple of affirmations as well. Oops. Again, like, I don't know what it is with you guys, but I don't know. If you are spiritual, you might want to try, doing some grounding, doing some meditation. If you do any form of divination, like cards or anything like that, it might be beneficial for you to pick that up if you haven't done it recently, or to maybe do a little bit more of it, even journaling. Because I kind of get the sense that you might have a lot of messages that are waiting for you to receive, like the universe, your spirit guides, past on love, however you want to like quantify what it is or where it comes from. I kind of get the sense that there's a lot of information backed up. There's a lot of messages. You might have been going through a lot because there's just like chunks of cards consistently. Like from the moment that I started setting the intention for this reading, she's been a little chaotic. So yeah, you might benefit from taking some time to connect with yourself and your spirituality if it's something that you don't already do or know how to do. Perhaps looking into that, finding some exercises or meditations that will help you connect with or become more aware of your intuition and how it speaks to you. Literally anything is better than nothing. But yeah, you might be able to connect with some extra messages beyond what I'm able to share with you in this limited reading this month. So and funny enough, the card that came out for you is Priestess, and it says, how are you being called to step up and lead? And generally the Priestess is like a very kind of like spiritually wise individual. So I'm just going to look it up in the book. So Priestess, how are you being called to step up and lead? The Priestess is a teacher dedicated to service, freedom, and leadership. You don't need to have it all together to lead. In fact, it helps if you don't. No one wants a perfect angel who hasn't made any mistakes. Let your life be your message. Don't underestimate the power of sharing your story. It's by hearing someone else's journey that we feel less alone. We realize that we're actually all in this thing called life together. The difference between a follower and a leader is that a leader has the courage to go first. In stepping out, they shine a light on the path for others to venture forward to. Don't fret too much about trying to work out who is your tribe. Don't get stuck in age, income, hobbies, or occupation. The best way to discover your tribe is to look in the mirror. If you feel called to lead, chances are it's because at some point in your life you longed for someone to lead you. Your tribe are longing for exactly the same thing as you were and are, and might only be one step behind you. Hell, they may even be right alongside you. You don't need anyone's permission, just the courage to stand up. Embrace your struggles, the peaks, the troughs. You don't need to know the way, just believe that there might be a different one. Your tribe is waiting for you. Step forward so they can find you. And then there's an inquiry to go along with it, which says, how are you being called to step up and lead? And how can you be the leader you wish you had? So those are some points for you to kind of reflect on, maybe some questions to ask yourself and think on or journal on if that's something that you're interested in. Yeah, and I think that also goes nicely with this idea of, these connections, this kind of deeper level of connection, this tribe. I would call this kind of like a soul tribe card. And then this, kind of release of, defensiveness, and the need to keep your cards close to your chest, right? This could be a really great opportunity for transformation and for you to start standing up, standing out, sharing your voice, setting an example for other people who are in a similar place or on the same wavelength or wanting or working through the same things. So that is a really empowering card to end with. And I'm just going to get you a couple of affirmations to finish things off. So these affirmations might be valuable to you right now. It could be worth holding on to them as you move throughout the month, depending on how this challenge surfaces and what kind of comes up for you throughout the month. Wow, again. So your first affirmation says, I show up for myself in the world, which is exactly what this card is all about, like being authentic, being courageous enough to share yourself openly, show up for yourself, show up for others. You can set an example and you can not only positively impact yourself, but you can positively impact others and set an example and kind of shine the light for them. So you never know who you're going to inspire or who you're going to help just by, being yourself and showing up in your authentic energy each day. And then your second affirmation, I choose to reinterpret my fears with a more loving perspective. So again, another really loving and empowering kind of statement for recognizing that it's natural to have fear, especially if it's connected to something emotional, meaningful, especially, interactions with other people. It can lead us to feeling vulnerable, and that can kind of spark our fear and anxiety and need to kind of withdraw. So now will be a really good time, especially with this energy of blessings being bestowed upon you this month. It's going to be a really, really great time to take a look at the things that make you feel uncomfortable, that inspire fear, that inspire anxiety, and to find a way to flip the script or change the narrative and find a more loving way to approach whatever that is so that you can use it to further empower yourself, or at least so that it's not kind of that monkey on your back dragging you down. So Pisces, that is your reading. I'm going to leave it here. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, the best way to support me is to like this video on YouTube, or go ahead and leave me a comment. Let me know how it resonated for you. Beyond that, you can feel free to share my readings with anyone you think might be interested. And if you haven't already, make sure you hop on over to my channel at Bright Soul Collective Tarot. Check out my other readings. As I said, I'm back and I'm hoping to put more consistent readings out for you guys. And if you haven't already, make sure you hit subscribe and click on that little bell icon to ensure that you will be getting notifications to stay up to date on new readings as they're posted. So Pisces, it's been an absolute pleasure reading for you. I'm so happy to be back, and I can't wait to connect with you all and read for you again in the future. And in the meantime, I'm wishing you all the very best.